Okay, so when I say that LeBron James was wrong, I want to qualify that because I don't want people to walk away feeling or thinking that I said something that I did say, but I didn't mean it the way I said it. He was wrong, but um, I understand the reasoning behind what he did. Now, he didn't commit a crime, but he was wrong when you look at the big picture. And the big picture puts him in a light of being a bit emotional and overreacting. Now, from a father standpoint, it's justified, and we all can understand when somebody is messing with our kids. So it is perceived that our kids are being messed with. As a mother or a father, we gonna stand up, and the lion in us is gonna come out. However, the issue is we have to filter through his reasoning because his reasoning lacked um, support in every area. There definitely could be some adjustments made from an informational standpoint and from a maturity standpoint. Um, but I do understand. And so, with that being said, I'm going to say that LeBron James was overall, he was wrong. Some of the onus, though, goes on Stephen A as well, because Stephen A, I feel like Stephen A is, he hides and he makes it seem as if he's doing his job, but I think he pokes. And if he doesn't, it has a feel of it, right? And then the thing with Stephen A, it's like, because I'm a fan of Stephen A's intelligence. I mean, a big fan. I think the guy is brilliant. But I also think that Stephen A is the type of person, it's hard to tell him anything. It's like even when he's on first take, Stephen A, he'll come back, somebody give a little position or whatever, he'll come back and he'll say, "You're wrong." And he'll say, "And I'll tell you why." Now, that does not make what that person said wrong. It just means that he has a different opinion. And sometimes that can come across as prodding or poking, or like you know it all and can't nobody tell you nothing. And so I think that can run its course after a while, and then you start to believe something that, in my opinion, is a fallacy. But because your ratings, because you haven't, it's like Mike Tyson was the champ until Buster Douglas knocked him out, right? And so in Stephen A's case, it's like you're doing what you're doing because you can now, until something bigger and better comes along. And when something bigger and better comes along, then you have to take a back seat to it. But because he's been doing this for so long, and it's hard for people to counter him, and he is the juggernaut, right? For being a sports analysis, being a pundit, for his little talk show host or whatever it is. He's the guy, and just whatever he does, it kind of turns to gold. But that don't mean that it's right. See, that's where we get mixed up at. We start to follow money. We start to follow fame. Um, we follow popularity. And then that becomes the basis, the structure, the foundation for what is right and how things should be done. And that's not necessarily true. It just means that it is a standard that has been set that we have grown to embrace and to polarize, to highlight, but don't necessarily mean that it's right. And so, with that being said, here we have two kings, because of course LeBron James is the GOAT. He's the allegedly greatest of all times, aka the king. Stephen A is the GOAT, allegedly greatest of all times. He's the king of being an analyst, sports analysis, right? Sports analyst. So now you have these two, you know, King Kong and Godzilla. They come in the same place, and King Kong got an issue with Godzilla, and Godzilla ain't ready to. He Godzilla getting caught off guard, but Godzilla been doing a whole lot of little stuff behind the scenes in the name of I'm just doing my job, right? And Stephen A. again, he is he is notorious in my opinion. Now, of course, I ain't nobody, but I feel like Stephen A. knows he's such a pro with handling situations like this that it's hard to trap him. He said one time that he should have been a lawyer, and he would have been a good lawyer because he just got the gift of gab. He's he's never lost for words and all that kind of stuff. But it don't mean that people like myself that are nobodies, that'll probably never be heard, they can't see through it. See, that's the thing about a lot of folks that just feel like they it. And you have a lot of folks that know you're not it. And so at the end of the day, you got a problem because I remember a professor of mine, we were having a class and he says, how do you tell a person that you know that they don't know that you know that they don't know? And what he was saying was, it's hard for you to tell a person something when you know that they really don't know what they think that they know, or what they think, what they believe. And so how do you say anything about that? When somebody is headstrong and they just locked into themselves, I don't know how you unlock them, because that becomes their truth, that becomes their world, their reality. So they in this place together, and LeBron is upset, and obviously there's tension over a period of time, and he confronts Stephen A. And he gives him some choice words, and Stephen A. does not respond um, inappropriately. Let's say that. But as Stephen A. is golden as he is, and I know he said something on his talk show that he has bosses that he worked for, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have to say something about this." Whether they said it to him or not, I don't know. I don't think they would have had to pull his leg to respond to that incident. I think he would have anyway, because it's so much notoriety that it got. He had time to really think about it. And you can't give Stephen A. no time, because Stephen A. he gonna cover all the bases, and that's just what he do. That's just what you gotta know about him. Anyway, I'm only saying that because, again, you got two people that are, as Stephen A. would say, savants. Stephen A. is one, and LeBron is. LeBron situation, he's not concerned about Stephen A. He just want him to keep his son's name out his mouth. Like the Will Smith thing. Keep my wife's effing name out your mouth. Right? It's one of those things. But you can't say that. This is where LeBron James was wrong. As meaningful as that was, as constructive as he wanted that to be, as loving and endearing from a parent that he wanted that to be, you can't. You got to let Bronny be a man, and this becomes a hard thing. He's not a little boy; he's a grown man. Now, this is where privilege and entitlement. Well, we're gonna talk about this, because at the end of the day, Bronny had a different name and a different circumstance, like not being LeBron James' son. You would not know about Bronny today. And if you would, you might, it'd be on a much, 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 much lower scale, in my opinion, doing the eye test. And so this, again, is problematic, and it sends a signal, a message, even to America today, with privilege. And it's something that I can't stand. And we usually equate this to white privilege. And when I say white, I don't mean that carte blanche, because all white people aren't privileged, but most of them have an advantage over Black people. I will say that. But in this case, LeBron is dealing with this gift, for lack of a better word, of privilege. And when you got privilege, that means that I'm a billionaire, I'm the king, I'm LeBron James, and I want my son to play with me on the court in the NBA. The problem with that is that your son wasn't ready. But the problem with that is that you're privileged. And the problem with that is that you're going to get your way regardless, because you're privileged. There's so many problems with that. So now we can equate that to a lot of the stuff that's going on right now in our society with privilege. So you look at the reason why there's arguments all over. Black folks are arguing and saying that privileged white folks, they have an advantage because of A, B, and C. And privileged white folks are saying that the reason why Black folks are disadvantaged is because they're lazy and they won't do the work. Underprivileged Black folks come back and they argue the reason why we ain't doing this and we ain't doing that because the system is unfair. And when I was going to school and I was applying myself, it didn't help no way, because y'all already had, it was fixed. It's the same thing that they saying about Elon Musk and about Trump. And a lot of that stuff is true. See, there's so many dynamics that work with this. There's so many ways that you can argue this, and this is something that I could talk about for a long while. But there's it's just moving parts. Every time you turn around, the target gets moved, and it creates a different type of argument. This is the reason why we've got LGBTQ. This is the reason why you got the womanist feminist movement. This is the reason why you got the woke movement. This is the reason why you got Black Lives Matter. This is the reason why you got DEI. This is the reason why you got affirmative action. All these things came as a result of America, or people in power, not doing things right and being unjust. But now we see it with Black people, because as Black as LeBron James is, and as democratic as LeBron James is, that was a real Republican. If you're going to look at it in terms of what we are accustomed to identifying with, you're going to look at that as a real Republican move, because you stepped all the way into the Trump's camp, into the privileged camp. Why? Because you pulled the card. You pulled, your as you playing spades, you pulled out a joker. And you pulled out a joker because of who you are. Now that's not right. But conversely, Stephen A, he pulls out jokers too. This is the reason why you got these two juggernauts, however you say that word. They big players, big players, and now they having a face off, right? They just in different fields, but the fields, they touch one another, and so now it's creating a different type of tension, which not everybody, but a lot of people are not noticing. So, and they won't never relegate this to a DEI problem, or affirmative action problem, or a privilege or an entitlement problem. They won't, because they just say that it's sports. It ain't just sports. It's what people are doing. They play in the system, but they play in the system. It's politics, but it's a different type of politic, because it's sports and it's you got Black people that's involved in it. It looks different. It has a different feel to it. But at the end of the day, it's the same principles applied. Now, let's look at this a little bit different, because when we say this, the DEI and affirmative action and all this kind of stuff, as it relates to Bronny. Bronny is a good basketball player, right? He's a good basketball player. But let's just say, they left here. When I say here, I'm talking about Cleveland, Akron, went out to California. LeBron's money can get him into any school, any position, with any coach, anything that he wants. Why? Because he's LeBron James. He got money. But if he didn't have it, Bronny would be playing maybe D1. Maybe he would have played D1. A good player at D2. I watched him, and I didn't see nothing magical about him. He was a decent basketball player, but man, I know some guys at the park that would blow Bronny out the water, that are no names and will never ever get an opportunity. But see, this is the thing about being privileged, because it's a lot of people in that privileged arena that don't need to be there, but they there all because they riding on the coattails of daddy, mama, a title, money, and all that stuff. It's privilege. It's not that you qualify. So in that regard, I take issue with Trump, because I do and I don't. Because on one hand, he's saying that, we're going to have these jobs, this, that, and the other, and it's going to be for the best people. And it should be. And up until now, which I think the Republicans had something to do with it, as well as Democrats, you did have people of color, women, and Black folks, that they were filling quotas. They were they were checking the box. And they may not have been the sharpest knife in the drawer. They may not have been the person that was qualified for the position. However, the corruptness of the system and the structure of the system, y'all caused all this. It's just corruption all the way around. This is the reason why I got a problem with the whole thing with DOGE, Department of Government Equality. Is that what DOGE is? Department of Government Efficiency. Efficiency is what it is. And that should have been something that should have been checked in a long time ago. You get Elon Musk, and I think he's doing a good job. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but it's something that should have been done a long time ago to correct the corruptness in the system. The system has been dirty a long, long time. It ain't just with Trump. It's been dirty. You tell me where Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi and all them, when they first started off in politics, the type of money that they had, and based upon their salaries, what they would have been getting, right? And then what they left office with. and what their net worth is. Tell me where did all the money come from? All of them, on the Democratic side, on the Republican side, they all dirty. They all dirty. It's corruption all the way around. All this stuff with our food. You get somebody in there, like I said before, it's time for a reset. So you got Robert F. Kennedy is looking at our food, looking at the FDA, looking at the prices, all this kind of stuff. It's just nobody's caring about their brother. God says to a Cain, he asked him, he says, how's your brother doing? And Cain says, well, am I my brother's keeper? Here's the deal. No, you're not your brother's keeper in terms of your brother making his own decisions, but you are tethered to him. That means that we are all collectively in this thing together. And what we're doing when we look at the food prices, when we look at the stuff that we put in the foods and what we letting come over, and we feeding our children, what we feeding the animals, what we feeding the ground, all this stuff, and then we don't check that. You start to beat up a person, and it becomes that doggone Donald Trump and that doggone Biden and that doggone Harris and that doggone Vance and that doggone Bush. No, the issue is the doggone all of us, all of us. We all play a part in it because we all are our brother's keeper, but it's politics, it's big business. So you got people like the Gateses of the world, you got people like the Fauci's of the world. They don't care about health. One hand, get rid of them. The other hand, let's lie about the vaccine. I mean, it's all corrupt. That's why everybody mad at me, and I look at this whole thing differently. But I just felt compelled to talk about this whole thing because it's highlighted right now with LeBron and Stephen A. And it all is interwoven together. But it depends on how you looking out your lens, how you see the system. It's the same corrupt system. Blacks ain't no different than whites in this whole thing, as you can see right here. There's no difference. So and I can go and talk about this for quite some time. It's really crazy, but it's one thing leverages the other thing, the other thing leverages the other thing, and then it's just a big mess. You got big pharma making 120 $150 billion a year with a product that costs 2 cents to make. All that kind of stuff, and people just dying left and right. At the end of the day, they don't care about people. They just care about money. That's the deep blue side and the deep red side, and every side in between. We have to be reset as a people. We have to find God in the God of Jesus the Christ. Now, this is because this ain't what this is about. So anyway, my son is or was he's in his 30s now, and let me just give you an example, right? Because I really feel like LeBron could have massaged this thing a little bit different and approached it differently. I think one of the issues that he had was he missed a father in his house growing up. I ain't saying that Gloria didn't do a good job, and I'm not saying that moms don't do a good job. I'm not saying that they can't raise a boy, but I do challenge raising a boy to a man. I'm gonna say it won't be optimal. They can't, you can't give somebody something that you don't have. Okay. If I don't have love, I can't give love. If I'm not a man, I can't make a man. And I can get, pretty close based upon what I see and experience and all that. But there's something that's going to be left out. And I really feel like LeBron didn't get certain things. Now with me as a father, my son was coming up and he had some challenges in sports with a couple of his coaches. And in my case, I feel because it wasn't athletic, it wasn't ability challenges because he was an absolute monster. But it was challenges based upon the way that a couple of his coaches were cultured. Okay, and what we had to deal with was what's your reference point? Because when my son came up in an all white school, all white environment, so he's been touched by all white coaches. And when you got that, and this is not no. I'm not trying to minimize. I'm not trying to make an argument of demeaning. It's not that, but there is challenges, and so as a parent, I have to monitor that because his coaches, my son's coaches, was in my opinion, to me they was kids. So I'm listening to him coach because that's what, that's just what your aspiration is. But at the same time, I'm looking behind the coaching at your character. And so there was a couple of times when my son didn't know this, because I, as a parent and as a father, I dealt with it a little bit differently, because I knew that if I would have fueled my son, that this could have went a different way. So I dealt with his coaches a little bit differently. But here's my point. My point is this, is that as a father in a house, a father has a unique way, most of them, of of bringing in the reins on emotional outbursts and bringing about a balance, and a balance to emotions that probably would not be there if there was just a mother in the home. Okay, because most mothers, especially in African American homes, you got a boy. That's my mama, and you African American mama with her boy. Watch out, tiger. It ain't nothing that boy can't do wrong, but you got to have something there to balance it all out. And this is where I say that one of the travesties that we are experiencing in our culture, the Black culture, is the division of households, and that is not having a two parent home, the mother and the father, because we're missing a big dynamic by not having them there, right? So I feel that had he had that, and I know LeBron's dad personally. I know his dad, his real dad, and he's a good dude. Now I understand there was some other stuff that went on with that, but he's a really good dude. But I think that had he played a role his whole life growing up, it puts a leash on your emotion, and you're not triggered so easily, or you think things through. In LeBron's case, I don't think that he had everything there to consider what Stephen A was saying or what he was doing. Okay. And so with what he had to work with, he let it go, what he had to work with. And I can't blame him. I can't blame him for that. And him being a father, that was just the love of a father or love of a parent to a child. But it still comes with reservation, meaning that it's not whole. There's loose ends that needs to be brought into the picture to be considered. So that being said, I'm not going to let Stephen A off the hook, because Stephen A is an intelligent, he is a juggernaut. He is one of the best agitators that I have ever seen in my life. I mean, it's like he was born to agitate, to stir the pot. And he can do it intentionally, and he can do it unintentionally. If that's right, unintentionally and unintentionally. He can do it unintentionally. But either way, he's going to be right either way he do it, because if he does it unintentionally, he's going to make that as if he was innocent, and if he does it intentionally, he's going to make that look like he was innocent and that he was pure and that he was right. He's just gifted that way. However, his approach should have been a little bit different too. Now, the thing was that this was an issue with, for him, it should have been an issue about the court, not about parenting. That's none of his business. He opened himself up for LeBron to approach him, though, because Stephen A dealt with parenting. That's outside of his scope, parenting. Now, I know what he was trying to get to, but he should have gotten to it a different way. But you're gonna be able to tell Stephen A that, because Stephen A, I don't care how you box him in, he is going to sit there and gonna act like he ain't thinking. And when he come back, he gonna have a 10-minute soliloquy on a whole different approach. And at the end of the day, he gonna be right, and then you're gonna be like, I don't even know what I said to him, because he took this thing and just turned it, 25 different ways. That's just the way it's like magic. I don't know how he does it, but that's him. So I wanted to chime in on this, though, because I wanted to highlight in this conversation that everybody's having now, since LeBron's character is being questioned, and it should be a little bit, and not that LeBron is intentionally trying to be out of character and that he's a bad guy. No, his character got questioned because of his love for his son, but his love for his son was the exhibition of it didn't have all the pieces. It's like I'm gonna make a pizza, not a pizza. I'm gonna make a cake, and I'm gonna leave out 4 ingredients. Well, you leave out 4 ingredients on a cake, that's gonna make a big difference in that cake. until those ingredients are added, you can't really move or present that cake because it's not ready. And so I just feel like this is a problem with most men, black or white, but more pronounced with the white, I mean, with the black men, that they have arguments that are emotional that's not ready because it's like they bake the cake, but they leave out a couple ingredients. Now, when they make their argument, it sounds really good, but you're missing a few things. And one of the big things you're missing is that you're missing daddy. But a lot of the reason why they missing daddies is because the daddies are either dead, they locked up, and then black people killing one another. So you got all that going on. But then there can be an argument of why. Why is that happening? You go back and you look at slavery. You look at the tactics that was used, how they programmed the black people, the family. It was just so many things that has happened to black people. You can look at how they've done black people with um, the 40 acres in a mule. What is that called? The money thing that black folks are still trying to get right now that they gave to the Jews. They give it to the other folks that come over. Reparations, the reparations. I mean, you can give $350 billion over to the country that's at war right now. You can get that to them, but black folks can get in 1 billion. So when you look at all this, it's just kind of, it's lopsided. It's not fair. It's all over the place. So this is the reason why I say, let's start looking at one another for who we are, not a position of politics, not a position of popularity. I got people right now that I love dearly, and we ain't talking, and we're not talking because of politics. Can you believe that? I can believe it, but I mean, I would have never thought that it would get to this point to where politics would make the difference in friendships. And when I say friendship, I'm talking about genuine, way back in the day friendships that has taken a turn because of political views of today. And the other thing, and I'll say this and I'm done, everybody's got their opinion, but everybody's opinion is polarized in the moment. Like, I've heard a lot of arguments in the last couple of weeks where this is happening because of Trump. This is happening because of that. Well, that's your argument right now. But 10 years ago, this was happening to me because of this person and that person. And I didn't say nothing about it. So why is it that when certain things happen to certain people, it's a real big deal? And everybody get on the bandwagon with it because of a last name, of a position that you hold, a title that you hold, all this kind of stuff. Why is that? No, it's all common. It's all common. Everything, what goes around comes around. And that's what we're dealing with right now. What goes around comes around. Can I tell you this? Black folks still on the bottom end, at the back of the line. No matter what happens, black folks still gonna be at the back of the line. So what about that? Why all y'all this privilege, and then you can make a complaint about, well, this is happening, and this is happening because of A, B, and C. Well, this has been happening for black people because of A, B, and C way back. Let's take it back 2,000 years. Now I'm exaggerating here, but let's just take it back. Okay, it ain't never been fair. So at least you experience, a measure of fairness. At least that. And it's just so many things, because don't get me started on this. There's so many parts and pieces to this that a lot of folks that are fighting on the blue side and on the red side that they don't know. Your arguments are limited too, because it's just like the cake. You got some of it, but you ain't got all of it. And you definitely haven't felt all of it. You haven't felt all of it, so you don't know. So everybody just kind of talking spontaneously in this reactionary movement and arguments and all this stuff. And you can say that, well, if two things, if the better wood comes from Canada. Look, I'm a builder, right? And all this stuff, just start talking about. I get nasty, dirty, no good wood from Canada all the time. I have problems out of Canada's wood breaking just like any other lumber out there. So stop it. Okay, you be saying this stuff to people that don't know. Now, American wood, American trees, because their argument is that the tree is softer and all this stuff. No, at the end of the day, let me just tell you, you need to be able to rely on yourself. You need to be your own resource. At the end of the day, now it's going to be a challenge of us getting there. But let me tell you something. We've got to go through the growing pains because we let this stuff get out of hand. You don't let nobody. All this stuff would happen in 2020. The China, all the chips can't even drive your car because you got to wait 6 months for a chip to come. What kind of mess is that? You're gonna wait, let some little country, Canada, control all the wood and control, all your food. When you have resources here, get your resources going. Get your steel mill plants back up and going. Get your car plants back up and going. Do all that stuff. Now that don't mean that you can't trade and you can't bargain. And I think tariffs is good. But I think what happens is, how is it that we gonna be in this thing when it's equal, right? How is it that I'm gonna use my money? I'm gonna use 2/3 of my money. And I'm gonna no more than that. I'm gonna use 80% of my money. The EU gonna use 20% of their money, okay, to get involved with all these different things. Just for an example. And there is no return. It's giveaway money. There's nothing where you'll get nothing back. So with Canada getting all free stuff, China getting all free stuff, and I don't mean that carte blanche, but what I'm saying is it's not proportioned properly. So United States, they act like punks. You can't do business like that. You just can't. I know this got off into a political conversation. I know that ain't where it was going. So anyway, think about this whole thing with this equity, DEI stuff, and this affirmative action, and this entitlement with privilege, and just think about what I just said, because see, it works on both sides, black, white, whatever it is. It just depends on the nature of what's going on and who got money and who don't. And it's relative. All of it's relative. It's not a silver bullet. It's not a cookie cutter to none of this stuff. But it can be an eye opener that once you look at it, you say, well, wait a minute now. Because they want you to believe just that little frame. Just believe that frame that they just took a picture of and leave it right there. If you ignorant, then you will believe that. But trust and believe. It's a whole lot of pictures in front of that picture and behind that picture that we need to take note of. Be blessed. Hope y'all ain't mad at me. That's just my little take. Till next time. God bless.